Okay, so the other day I made a short intro video. Audio was absolutely terrible. I apologize for that. And I'm hoping this does a whole lot better. Anyway, as I said before in the previous video, I've had ACDF surgery, removed 2 discs in my neck, C5 to C6 and a C6 to C7. All three vertebrae there have devices called, they refer to as cages, with material there to help the bones fuse in hopes that, everything turns out alright and I won't have to deal with um, the problems I was having, which wasn't really pain so much as it was I had lost the sensation of touch, you know, of, of touch, particularly when it comes to sharp like pin pricks or anything like that in my finger. Now I work as a cook, and so my hands at this point in my life are my livelihood. They've always been, everybody's hands are also important anyway. But if I'm not able to something and I can't, sense the correct heat, or if by chance I was to have a knife in my hand and it slipped and run across that finger, I was afraid I would not be able to feel how serious a wound might be. Also, I have other hobbies I do. I like playing video games. Not really conducted to playing video games. You can't tell how, you know, if your finger is actually touching a button or not. And as a side note, sometimes I also like to pick locks. You know, I'll do, I'll pick locks, or I'll solve a Rubik's Cube. And for me, the Rubik's Cube isn't me doing math in my head. It's just going over memory, because memory is a very important thing, and I feel that I have to work on. So now that all that's out of the way, I will say this: going on day 3 now. I did not have really a good night's sleep, and the reason behind that was, as I was trying to get sleep, I was having trouble with the collar, not this collar, but the soft collar in particular. It felt like it was pressing in on my neck in a way that I was not used to. And today when I woke up, I I felt like my sinuses were really dry. I was like, my head had been held in position, which, great for airflow and everything, but, I felt like, the inside of my nasal cavities and everything was just like the Sahara Desert, from such a big change. And then I also noticed that sometime during the night, the collar had come off. So, rather than, go through a bunch of filling or anything, I just happen to have these Velcro strips where, both sides had glue on them, and you could, you know, for sticking objects where you needed them to temporarily be if you had to take them off every so often. I just put 2 strips together, glue side to glue side, and I'm going to use that as a kind of an extension so that I get a better grip on on the ring. Now, the reason behind this is because um, I am the proverbial fat guy. I'm going to try to take this off and show folks what this kind of looks like. It's not advisable for everyone to do this, but you're always supposed to have your neck supported by something. So just keep that in mind, folks. Alright. Here's the strap here. Now, as is very evident, I have a big old second, hell, almost a third chin right here. And for those curious what a bandaging and everything is typically going to look like for, sorry, I'm biting a cord here, for after this surgery, you know, I have this that goes around here. Now the actual surgical site is in here. Um, Overnight, when I spent the first night in the hospital, which, you know, some people may spend the first night in the hospital, some people may not. I had a drain there, and let's get this cord out of the way real quick. There we go. Okay, nice and snug it feels like. Let's work on the alignment a little bit. Come on. There's the end of it. So that is, hang on a second to come off. Put my charging cable back in place. Alright, here we go. So, the soft collar. Okay, it's hard to position with, the neck brace. So the soft collar came off. That made me worried. Um, but this is all new experience for me, and I hope that some of the things I'm mentioning here will help somebody else, when they're trying to figure out their own way. Now, I'm not in a particular lot of pain. Excuse me. Not in a lot of pain. If anything, it's more like a muscle slash contact ache because I was simply not used to holding my neck in this position for this duration of time and anything. I have to get used to the fact that I'm going to be limited in how far I could look down or up. Side to side movement, my doctor said, is okay. So there is that. And of course, he was really thorough on, this being a daily routine where, I shower, bathe, and, I'm allowed to let the water hit the bandage because it's not, going to immediately soak through, but that once, bathing is over with and everything, I will, pull the loose bandage off, go through the trouble of, well, go through the routine of cleaning, the site that's going to be under the next bandage I put on, putting antibacterial, um, ointment on, and make sure my hands are clean while this is all taking place, and just, being as hygienic as possible. Because, this is, an area of your neck that's going through, I believe your carotid artery is on your right side. So, again, I'm not a doctor. I might be screwing this up. So, be aware of that. But you do have an artery that goes along your neck on this side. And you do not want anywhere near those. You just don't. You don't want any infection that can, potentially reach your gray matter between your ears, or anywhere, going down towards your heart and lungs. It's not. It's something that I'm gonna have to be very thorough on. But this is a journey I had to set off on this because it needed to be done. Now, whether or not this is going to leave me limited in my physical functionings at a job, I still have to cross that bridge. I'm reminded that, hey, given my other condition, which, I will say I suffer from, depression regularly. I will say I suffer from fibromyalgia, which means but I won't go into that. It just means that it's something else I have to take into consideration along now. And yes, I'm a large person. Yes, that impacts on my life. I get it. I understand. Um, for me, I've spent most of my life being overweight in some fashion or another. I've just been kind of built like that. And, and by the way, if I would have tried to run with the way my neck was, then every step that every advanced step I would take, when all my weight would come down, shock goes up through your body from your legs, and I would feel that tingle in my neck. So, by the way, this little thing right here is an adjustment for the front here. Oh, look!